You know, sometimes in a marriage, you get an ultimatum. It's usually born out of frustration, a last-ditch effort to be heard. But what happens when the ultimatum isn't a cry for help? What happens when it's a declaration of war, a calculated move to seize absolute power? My wife handed me one of those. She looked me dead in the eye and told me, "Give me full freedom to do whatever I want, no questions asked, or I am divorcing you." She expected me to beg. She expected negotiation. She expected fear. So I laughed. It wasn't a laugh of mockery, not really. It was the laugh of a man who has just seen the final card in a game he didn't even know he was playing. And that laugh was the beginning of the end for her, and the beginning of everything for me. Let me rewind a little. Our marriage wasn't always a battlefield. For 12 years, I thought we were a team. We built a life, a home, a comfortable routine. But comfort can breed contempt, and familiarity can fester into a quiet resentment. I was busy building our future, working long hours, thinking I was providing the stability she wanted. Meanwhile, she was drifting. It started small, later nights out with new friends, secretive text messages, a growing emotional distance I couldn't bridge. I'd ask, "Is everything okay?" and get a dismissive, "I'm just tired," in return. The woman I loved was building a secret life right beside me, and I was the last to know. The tension built for months, a slow, cold drip that eventually freezes into a solid block of ice. The laughter in our home died, replaced by a heavy, suffocating silence. We were two ghosts haunting the same house. Then came the night of the deadline. I remember it perfectly. She walked into my home office, her posture rigid, her face a mask of cold determination. There was no sadness in her eyes, only a chilling resolve. She didn't sit down. She stood over my desk like a judge delivering a sentence. "Listen," she said, her voice unnervingly calm. "I can't live like this anymore. I feel trapped. I need to live my life without having to explain or justify every single thing I do." I started to speak, to ask what this was, but she cut me off. "No. I'm done talking. Here's the deal. You give me your full, unconditional blessing to do whatever I want, whenever I want, with whomever I want. No arguments, no questions, no complaints. Or, I file for divorce. You have 24 hours to decide." She stood there, waiting for my reaction. She expected panic. She expected me to crumble, to plead with her, to ask what I could do to fix it. She held our 12-year marriage in her hands, convinced it was a weapon she could wield to get absolute freedom while keeping the security of our home and my financial support. She thought she had all the power. And that was her fatal miscalculation. That's when I laughed. It was a short, sharp, incredulous sound that escaped before I could stop it. Her eyes widened in shock, then narrowed in anger. "You think this is funny?" she spat. I looked at her, truly looked at her, and in that moment, I saw a stranger. I saw a person who viewed our vows not as a bond, but as a set of shackles she could unilaterally break. And I realized something profound. I didn't want to be married to that person anymore. Her ultimatum wasn't a threat, it was a gift. It was the permission slip I didn't know I needed to walk away from a broken relationship. I leaned back in my chair, my heart pounding not with fear, but with a strange, exhilarating clarity. "I don't need 24 hours, I said, my voice eerily calm. "My answer is no. I will not grant you that. So, I accept your second option. We're getting a divorce." The color drained from her face. It was a beautiful, terrifying sight. The script she had written in her head was burning to ashes right in front of her. She stammered, You don't mean that. You're just bluffing." I didn't bother arguing. I picked up my phone from the desk. My fingers didn't even tremble. I scrolled to my lawyer's contact, a guy I used for business contracts, never imagining I'd need him for this. I put the phone on speaker. It rang twice. "John," my lawyer's professional voice filled the room. "What can I do for you?" I kept my eyes locked on my wife's horrified expression. "Mike," I said, my voice firm and clear. I need you to initiate divorce proceedings immediately. My wife and I have reached an irreconcilable impasse. There was a brief pause on the other end. Understood, John. I'll get the paperwork started first thing in the morning. I ended the call. The silence in the room was absolute. For a long moment, she just stood there, frozen, the reality of what had just happened crashing down on her like a physical blow. Then, the mask shattered. The cold, confident woman was gone, replaced by a trembling, panicked stranger. Her breath hitched, and then the tears came. Not quiet, sad tears, but great, heaving sobs of pure, unadulterated shock. You can't be serious," she cried, her voice breaking. "I didn't mean it. I didn't think you'd actually do it. I was angry." I stood up, gathering a few things from my desk. "You gave me a choice," I said, my voice still calm. "I made it. You said you wanted freedom. Well, congratulations. You're free." I walked out of the room, leaving her sobbing in my office. The emotional whiplash was dizzying. The person who had issued the cold-hearted ultimatum was now begging, pleading, sending a torrent of texts saying she was sorry, that she never wanted this, that she didn't expect it to go this far. But the bridge was already burned, and I was not looking back. The following weeks were a whirlwind of legal motions and stark realizations. My lawyer, true to his word, was a pit bull. Since she had effectively abandoned the marriage with her demands and we had no children, the process was surprisingly straightforward. I offered a fair, clean financial settlement, no messy fights over assets. I just wanted out. She, on the other hand, was flailing. Her newfound freedom suddenly looked a lot like loneliness and the cold, hard reality of supporting herself. The man she thought she had wrapped around her finger had cut the string. The final court hearing was a quiet, administrative affair. She looked small and defeated across the room, her eyes red-rimmed. There were no more tears, just a hollow acceptance. When the judge finalized the decree, I felt a weight I didn't even know I was carrying lift from my shoulders. It was over. That was 6 months ago. And my friend, the satisfaction isn't in the winning or the revenge. The satisfaction is in the profound peace I feel every single day. I took back control of my life from someone who tried to use my love for her as a weapon against me. I learned the most valuable lesson a man can learn: know your own worth. Never let anyone, not even the person you love most, treat you as an option while you're treating them as a priority. Her tears that night weren't for the loss of our marriage, they were for the loss of her power, the loss of her safety net. She gambled everything on the belief that I was too weak to call her bluff. She was wrong. And now, I am free in the truest sense of the word, building a new life on my own terms, a life where my respect isn't negotiable. And let me tell you, that is a feeling more powerful than any temporary pain.